Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Movie Screeners Club podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Falk. The Movie Screeners Club is brought to you by Designing Hollywood Productions in association with Gardena Cinema. If you want to win the chance to have your short film screened in a huge cinema and the opportunity to be interviewed on our podcast, please submit your short film today to moviescreenersclub@gmail.com. So Jake, tell me about yourself and introduce American Mustard. Let us know what it's about.
Sure. My name is Jake Toohey. Born and raised in Newport Beach, California. I've been making videos for something like 10 years. Yeah, and I just love making videos specifically on like old school cameras. Over the years, I've played around with like a lot of different formats. From Super 8 millimeter, 16 millimeter, VHS, Handycam. I just really like using cameras that have this sort of like analog texture, grain. You know, if you make videos, if you watch movies and, you know, you see things shot on film, shot on old cameras, you definitely know that the older cameras provide like an X factor that give stuff a special feel. So yeah, over the last 10 years, I've been doing lots of freelance video work. I went to film school and just also chasing my own passion projects. So that kind of takes us to today, where I just released a new little short called American Mustard, shot on Super 8. And it was actually just a camera test. Like I got a new camera on eBay, a Super 8 camera, and I've used a bunch of them in the past, but you never really know if they work or not. This one was untested, so I basically just like had a blank canvas, a blank roll of film, and I knew I had to fill it with like something to see if the camera worked. So I basically just like created this mini short film backwards because I knew I wanted to get shots in harsh daylight. I knew I wanted to get shots in low light. I knew I wanted to capture like a summer movie because by the time the film was shot and processed and scanned, it would be like July. So I knew if I was going to post it on social media that I wanted it to be like summer themed. So I was kind of going for this like 4th of July hot heat wave feel. Yeah, and that kind of just led to American Mustard. Little comedy short.
So cool. So you said you've worked with Super 8 in the past. No one uses Super 8 anymore. Obviously,
Yeah.
it looks amazing, so it's worth all the trouble, but what's the trouble?
Yeah, you're so right. Like I think just my brain, like I think when I'm creating images for video, I'm thinking about it like purely from a cinematographer's point of view and then like a director's point of view second. And that's why I love this texture. Like I'm chasing the grain, I'm chasing the saturation, and these old cameras have their own special differences. Like the camera I just got has like electric zoom. So instead of like zooming with the lens, you're like using a little button, and it has this like feel. So every camera has its own set of issues. And with this specific camera, you can't sync sound because, and I knew that going into it, because you're shooting at such a slow frame rate. It's like 18 frames per second. And these old cameras are like spring wound. So it drops a frame. So within a given minute, it's not perfect. It's not, 18 frames per second times 60 seconds. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you're dropping frames. You can't record audio. So I knew that it was going to be a silent movie, which then kind of informed, okay, it's going to kind of have like a music video feel. It's going to be maybe like silent cinema, like Charlie Chaplin. Maybe I'll do some like slapstick to kind of like make it feel like a silent movie. So that was definitely one of the hurdles to jump over. I knew it was going to be silent. It's also hard to like stabilize those sort of cameras because of Super 8, you're like holding it. It's like on a handle. So it's inherently like shaky.
Yeah.
and the lower the frame rate is, the more visible the shakes are. So the whole time I was just trying to be like rock solid. Um, yeah, what else? I don't know. You never know if you're like getting the shot, because shooting on film, you basically only do 1 or 2 takes of any setup.
Right.
So you're basically just like hoping that whatever you shot works. And most of the time, your intuition, or at least in my experience, my intuition has been like dialed. Where if I shoot something and I'm like, oh my gosh, we got the shot, and then we move on to the next thing. Then when I'm scrubbing back through the footage, once it's scanned and sent to me, I'm like, wow, I actually did get the shot. And looking to the viewfinder, it's kind of the same thing that you see when you see the scans.
It's like Christmas
So
morning, unpacking the shot.
it is. It's like Christmas morning. There's no better feeling than like opening that email and seeing the scans. It's kind of like if you've ever shot 35 millimeter or like a disposable camera and you get the prints back, it's like, oh my gosh, the gap between shooting and seeing the footage is, there's something special that goes on in that gap.
Yeah, for sure. So are you planning on are you a kind of like a short form content kind of director, or are you in the future maybe planning on something a little bit more, a little longer, maybe a feature?
Yeah, I mean, definitely biggest dream ever is like to, I always kind of envision things backwards. I guess I'm just realizing in this chat.
Short
But
film shot backwards.
yeah, like I want to make a feature. I love adventure genre movies. I love comedy movies. So my biggest dream would be to make a adventure comedy feature, coming of age,
Hmm.
young actors. But then I'm always thinking like, okay, but how do I really get there? And over the years, making a lot of short form video, seeing other creators, careers bloom, I always think like audience and exposure is like very key. So
Hmm.
how do you create audience? How do you create a platform that then people are like thirsty for your next project?
Right.
Right now on Instagram, I probably have like, realistically, like I may have 1,000 followers, but there's probably like 20 people who are like
Mhm.
interested in what I'm really publishing.
Right.
So I'm always thinking, how do I grow my platform to have people that are more like-minded to me,
Hmm.
to then want to support the projects moving forward? So that's the big vision, is like make a feature, but then kind of stepping back, I do tons of social media video. That's the majority of like the work I do.
Hmm.
In freelance video, I do a lot of like tourism work. I do work that's about just like California travel. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's not exactly on that perfect trajectory towards the feature.
Right.
But I think slowly, each project, I meet new people or I learn something new, and then I take it to the next project, and then it's always chugging forward. But I also do music video work sometimes.
Hmm.
So I think the music video work is an interesting bridge, because it's made to exist in a bubble. Like it's just a piece of art that's like a music video montage. But then music videos also get shared on social. So it's easy to like reach new eyeballs and resonate with a new audience. And
Right.
then somebody might see that and be like, oh, I just like the composition of this shot.
Hmm.
Or I like that it's kind of funny and not too serious. And then if people care enough, they'll always, go down the rabbit hole, find the creator, find the director.
Right.
So anyway,
What I loved the most about American Mustard is that it's so stylized. Like you watch something like that and you can pick out exactly what you as the director wanted to get across and exactly like what style you wanted to bring. And I think like that classic Americana
yeah,
vibe
thank
is
you so much.
so it comes to the front so easily. Do you think that like honing in your voice like that, like, are you gonna be the director with the old cameras? Like, is that your thing? Or do you think like branching out, kind of like starting with something like that, branching out and becoming, a different kind of storyteller in that sense?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't know the answer, but I think I think with each new project, there's new things that you're revealing. And with each new project, there's always a connection to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I go back in time, I made a surf video with one of my friends in, let's say, like 2019.
Mm-hmm.
That friend had a roommate, and that roommate had a band. So I did a music video for this cool band called Sunroom. They're like a rock indie band in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a music video with Sunroom, and it had a lot of analog cameras, had a lot of sun-soaked images at the beach, surfing, longboarding, biking, tomfoolery,
Mm-hmm.
getting pushed in a bush. That sort of like
Charlie
boy
Chaplin comes
feel.
out.
Yeah, and then the drummer from Sunroom made his own band. I helped him create a music video. His buddy in the music video is brothers with the guy in American Mustard. So there's like always these connection points from project to project to project.
Totally.
And each one I'm gaining new insights. Like I do like working with old cameras, but if I was going to go for a bigger movie, bigger project, I think I would probably go with digital cameras, but use analog cameras to have little flourishes or little details, like
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. I know I'll always have bright, saturated, like Technicolor
Mm-hmm.
images because I just resonate with those. Yeah, I know it. I know that the themes that I'm chasing and trying to capture are always kind of in this like rose-colored world. Like I like warmth and positivity and tomfoolery, because I think there's so much like serious stuff, serious cinema out there, which I also like on the right day. But what I'm trying to bring forward is like this warmth, sunshiny, positive video, I guess.
Definitely.
So that's, I think, the through line of what will come next. And it's just like what you resonate with.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, it's what do you like that you want to see more of?
for sure,
Yeah.
exactly. People always say, write what you know, make what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally just like my default setting when I have a blank sheet of paper and I'm planning a video shoot. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I want to get shots of the ocean. I want to get shots of yellow flowers. I want to get shots of like denim,
Mm-hmm.
you know, cool music, like running. I love running in movies.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to capture more of that same energy with each new time I pick up the camera.
Are you the kind of guy that that makes a shot list and sticks to it, kind of like it's a Bible, or do you show up and you're like, I know I want to see the ocean. I don't care how I see it, but let's just see in the moment, spur of the moment type thing.
Definitely depends on the project.
Mm-hmm.
If you're making a surf video, you're literally just like standing there and capturing wave after wave after wave after wave. So that's kind of all you're getting. And then walking in and out of the water, you're getting B-roll. But for this type of project, I definitely had like a clear shot list planned out where I knew I had an act 1, act 2, act 3, because I think structure is really important. Whether you're I don't know, you can definitely play around with how you get from act 1 to act 2 to act 3. But I knew I wanted to start with a sort of picnic and then end with In-N-Out Burger. And then I knew throughout the act 2 there was kind of like this this flow of like activity to discovery. So I did have a shot list planned, and especially for music video stuff, I think it's just easier on myself to have a pre-planned shot list and then to find those magical moments like you're saying where you didn't plan it.
Mm-hmm.
Those in-between moments, those always come up. And it's always like me running with the camera and I'm a little bit anxious and stressed, like where am I going to set up next? We're losing light. Like I'm doing so many things by myself, and then the actor I'm working with in the corner is doing something spontaneous. I'm like, wait, that's the thing we need. fantastic moment. Like we need to capture that. That was like in American Mustard. I wanted to connect corn dogs to baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this moment where we throw a corn dog in the air and it like match cuts to a baseball bat.
Right.
And for some reason, planning I was like, that's the most genius thing I could think of. Like, it's so silly. Um, and then on the day, we like actually found a baseball in the bushes. And I was like, wait, we also need to get that shot of you finding the baseball in the bushes because that's so much more organic
Uh-huh.
and realistic
Right.
and less like whimsical than my idea. So we shot both, and I've cut the video to different lengths for different reasons. Like
Mhm.
one, I think we're potentially going to screen is like the longer version, but I also cut a shorter version, and the shorter version omits my baseball corn dog moment
Match
and
cut.
focuses on like finding the ball, and
Mhm.
then that discovery motivates them to go play baseball, or maybe they hit a home run and then they find it in the bushes, something like that.
Love it. So
Yeah.
my last question, before I let you go, is why should people come to Gardena Cinema and see American Mustard on the big screen?
Oh, good question. I think first and foremost because the movies are fun.
Mhm.
I am literally obsessed with going to the movies. I have like Regal Unlimited, so I go like multiple times a week. Um, to see American Mustard specifically, I think it's just kind of like a fun summer time capsule. I personally love to watch movies and videos that are representative of the season.
Mhm.
Like when I'm in the winter, I love watching Christmas movies. And when I'm in the summer, I'm trying to watch summer, blockbusters. Like I mentioned Twisters or Jaws. And while I was like planning American Mustard, I was watching um I randomly watched this movie called The Stuntman with Peter
Mhm.
O'Toole from like the 80s. And then I was on this 80s movies kick, and I watched Bull Durham with Kevin
Mhm.
Costner. And those were just like these American movies with all these like American images in them: denim, baseball, grass, sunsets. So I basically just like absorbed that and tried to create my own little summertime movie. Um, yeah, so that's kind of just what I was trying to create. And I think if you resonate with the summer, it's still August, we're still in the middle of summer, that American Mustard definitely, if it does nothing else, it ticks a summer box, and it just gives you a little taste of the season.
Definitely. Well, August 15th, American Mustard is screening at Gardena Cinema. Come on down and watch it.
Let's do
Gonna be a lot
it.
of fun.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm stoked and excited to meet you in person.
All right, me too, Jake. Thanks so much.
All right, have a great one.
You
Later.
too. Bye. The Movie Screeners Club is produced by Designing Hollywood Productions in association with Gardena Cinema. If you want to win the chance to have your short film screened in a huge cinema and the opportunity to be interviewed on our podcast, please submit your short film today to moviescreenersclub@gmail.com. This episode was sponsored by Smokebreak Productions, addictively entertaining.